Hey there, friends. Welcome back to Rip It Off, podcast where we just really rip it off and talk about all the things. And I am super excited to have my friend Shan Wright with us today. She is the host of the Holistic Mom podcast, Holistic Moms podcast. And I love your podcast. I think I told you this a while ago. You had reached out to me and we were chatting about podcast swapping. And I sat in the parking lot of the market waiting, like you've got that time between pickup and you're like, okay, I can either be late or I could, sit for a second, like heaven forbid I do that. So I sat and I listened to your episode and I can't remember the specifics of it, but you were doing just this meditation and it was exactly what I needed to hear at the time. I think it was the first time you had ever done one of your meditation episodes. And I just sat. And I heard God's word and I let it pour over me. And it was just so refreshing. Yeah. And since then I was like, I love you. You're awesome. This is so fun.
Well, thank you. That is my Breathe and Be Still series. And I have maybe like 5 of them now, but that is what helps me. And so I'm like, well, it's got to help other people. And I am so glad that was like one of the first episodes you pressed play on for me, because that is like my heart. Like, let's just breathe and pray. Let's just breathe and pray.
I was talking to 2 of my girlfriends yesterday and we were laughing, but saying like how important breathing is. And we were dead serious, but then laugh about it because we're like, of course, breathing is important. But I remember my grandma, she had this book that was on all kinds of like holistic stuff, but it was on breathing. And I had a migraine one day and I read the chapter on there and it was like these big, deep breaths. And I just remember laying in bed and like breathing. And I was shocked at the power of oxygen to the brain and what that did to my body. But you're right. Like if that helps you, that I always pray for that one woman, because we know there's thousands that need to hear it, but there's that one woman that this is news for her. And I love that you do these.
Oh, thank you so much. They are one of my favorites for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And as moms, like, when do we stop? When do we take a breath? When do we sit and relax and rest for a second? And what could be better than meditating on God's word?
Yeah. I don't know what they were called, but I remember being in a season with other moms and it was recommended to find that really, really short. I don't think they called it a breath prayer. I think they called it something else, but a really short prayer that just speaks to your heart. And mine was more of you, less of me, more of you, less than me. And so I used to do that when I was just at my wit's end. I would take some deep breaths, but I didn't know I was doing breath work. I would just be like, more of you, less of me, more of you, less of me, and welcome God into the situation, because you could just speak Jesus, but can't think. Exactly. You can't think. The oxygen's not up there and you feel like you don't have time. That's the lie that's going through your head. I don't have time for a long prayer. I don't have time and I can't think. So Jesus, help. Well, it's like Jesus help, but it's just more of you right now. I need to back up, so those are just powerful, super powerful.
I love it. Yeah. And we need to do it more often. And it doesn't have to be complicated. My girlfriend yesterday was saying her friend would say, like, the Lord is my shepherd. Inhale, I shall not want. Exhale.
Yes, that is my favorite. Mine is I like the version of the Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. And I actually was just speaking to a group of moms last night, and I've been doing that lately. I've been speaking in person because God told me to this year, 2025. And I've done it like 4 times already. And I love it so much. But that's one of the things that we do in the very beginning of my talk. Is we do the breath prayer, the Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. And I just feel this, not only for myself, but this calm come over the room. But it takes a minute. We only do it for like a minute, but the moms are not used to it. I can feel I'm like, okay, we're going to deep breathe. I want you to say out loud. I have to be very clear. Out loud, the Lord is my shepherd. And then you're going to exhale. I lack nothing. It takes like 4 times for me to start hearing them. It's like, we just can't get to that place sometimes. We have so much stress and anxiety that we can't just let it go. And I'm like, okay. So I recommend doing it for like 3 to 5 minutes. But when I do these talks, we just do it for a minute. And it's like, finally, it just releases right at that last second. And I'm like, okay, now I can start really pouring into them.
I love that.
Yeah.
Absolutely love that. And yes, there's so many benefits from that. But what could be bad about breathing in God's word and breathing out God's word and taking that moment, which is such a perfect sort of ish segue we're going to talk about sex and anxiety. Of course, we're going to talk about sex, but we're going to talk about anxiety. And here's what's really interesting is we've been trying to do this interview for months, literally months. Something happened. And now I know it was the Lord, like, this is not the right time. This is not the right time. And I came back to you. In fact, you messaged me. You're like, hey, are we ready to do this? And I was like, yes, we are. But it's all going to change. I want a different on this. And what I loved is you're like, no, actually, I've struggled with this perfectionism and anxiety. And there is this thought, you can go there and think, well, there's intimacy in my marriage. And then there's anxiety. And those are two totally different things. One has nothing to do with the other. And while your anxiety might not be over intimacy in your marriage, your anxiety is absolutely affecting your intimacy in your marriage.
Yes, 1000%. I was like, yes, dying to talk to you. I was like, I just want to talk with Michelle. And then when you came back and said what your whole news podcast was going to be, I was like, oh, well, duh. This is exactly what I was supposed to talk about. I actually had, my whole show was about stress and anxiety. I really want to help moms reduce their stress before it gets to anxiety. I want them to see that we actually can use healthy tools and strategies instead of these coping mechanisms that we're used to our whole life to reduce the stress level before it gets to anxiety and burnout. And in all of that, I actually had she calls herself the Christian sexpert on my show. And I felt like I was in a counseling session. I was like, this is what I needed. And my husband, I can't even tell you how many times he's listened to that episode because he knew that's what I needed. He was like,
love that.
He was like, now we are on the same page. That's what's important, because so many times during our marriage, it's really about just getting on that same page. And especially with sex, we feel like our husband's up here way high and we're low and we can't reach him. He's not willing to come down to us. And it's just they're all lies. And we just want to be on the same page. Like, we're so relational as women. We're like, I just want to be with you. And I want us to think the same and communicate the same and know where each other is at. And I'm not up there and I don't know if I can get there. And it really is just that communication piece, but we're so stressed out and anxious. We don't realize it just takes a little bit of communication. And they love you and they want to understand you more. And so when my husband had that episode, he's like, yes, I have something where I can understand. She's actually going to talk to another woman about sex and like get poured into from an expert. I need to know that page that she's on now. Yeah. And I feel like that's why. And can I tell you, he's such a good learner, a good student. He has been implementing everything that he's learned. We learned some really good stuff through that episode. And I haven't listened to it as many times as him, but I was listening to it to like kind of prepare for this. And I was like, that's why he's been saying that to me, because he learned it on that. Because there's just some things, some verbiage that ways that we can better communicate with each other when it has to do with sex, instead of doing it the world's way, really, instead of just doing what we've been taught from media and just the culture around us. And we can do it better and with more wisdom and just with more compassion for each other if we just take a minute and think about our words and think about how they're affecting the other person and just all of it. So,
yeah, it's such an emotionally charging conversation, or at least in my head, I always feel like it's an emotionally charging conversation. And a lot of that happens because the timing is bad. He wants this and you're trying to figure out the words. And, what you and I have talked about, and I've talked about so many other women, is we don't know what to say because we've never been taught what to say. And so then we get in this vicious cycle of, well, I don't know what to say, so I'm not going to say anything. And shocker of all shocks, it doesn't actually just magically get better. it's a muscle. You have to figure out how to communicate these things. And then you throw on perfectionism or anxiety or worry. And now you've got this pressure cooker of like, it's not making it any better. So then what are some tools that you have learned to I don't know if manage is the right word, but to communicate through your anxiety, especially when it comes to sex and intimacy in your marriage?
Yeah. Well, when I was at a place of complete burnout, I didn't know what to do. So and I would just, throw up the towel. And I was like, I think we're in a season, and just know it's not always going to be this way. And I'm going to get there, but please be patient. And I had to say that because I was trying to, pray over it and say, God, help me. Like, I know this is something that we need in our marriage, but how? I mean, I'm breastfeeding this baby and this toddler's always pulling at me and touching me. And how am I supposed to then go into the bedroom, and when? I mean, seriously, when? I like need practicals here. Like, there's no time to go in there when a kid is always needing you. So I didn't do that season well. But now that I've dealt with my stress and my burnout, and I'm at a better place with my whole life, I am able to see where, like, I'm managing my stress on all different levels. Holistically, I'm managing my stress. So I've dealt with my financial anxiety. I've dealt with my social anxiety. I've dealt with my physical body anxiety. I've dealt with sexual anxiety. I've dealt with, I'm trying to think of some of the others. Did I say social anxiety ever? Yeah. So and then just general emotional anxiety. So occupational anxiety, I've dealt with all of it on different levels at different times. It's not like I took on this whole burnout season and said, this is going to be better in an instant. It was like, okay, what is the most pressing thing here and how I can manage this part of my life, and let me find a tool and strategy to help with that. Now, what is the next one, God, I need to work on? And then it was that. And so it was step-by-step journey process. It's a holistic wellness journey that I'm on. And so the sex life kind of just evolved with that. As my stress level came down, I felt more comfortable. And I was like, oh, I'm not like, I don't feel overstimulated today on my whole body. Maybe, I can relax and I can get to this point. So it's really looking at yourself as a whole person. And the biggest tool and strategy is to do that, is to take care of your whole person and know that this sexual part of you is in it with everything else. It's connected to everything else. So not to take it separate, but to say, oh, this issue that I'm having with my body, this health issue, this anxiety about my weight or my activity level or something, it's affecting my sex life too. And so if I can deal with that, then that will get better. That's going to have a direct correlation. Or this anxiety that I'm having over our finances, it's affecting me in the bedroom. So if I can deal with that, and there's so much of it for us as females. Like, we know that men, they can compartmentalize thoughts in their brain. So when they get into the bedroom and they're thinking, this is happening, they don't have other thoughts going in their head, but we have with all the million, right? So it's learning how to deal with those in a healthy way. So then your mind can relax and you can get to a place of not thinking about the bills and the appointments while you're laying in bed. So I don't know if that really answered your question, but it is a holistic journey of dealing with your stress to then get to the point where you can be at a place where the stress is not interfering with the sex life.
Right. Well, and it totally, like, I 1,000% agree with that. And there's times though where my pastor's so cute. He'll do like visuals every so often. And he came up one time with 2 different boxes and opened one, and it was representing the man's brain, and, opened it and opened up one little box, and, oh, this is work. We're going to talk about work. And so we talk, oh, okay. Oh, you want to talk about the kids? Okay. We're going to put work away. We're going to bring the kids out, and, on and on and on he went. And then, of course, he opens up the box of women. And what is it? It's a tangled mess of cords. And we've got like all the things going on there. And it's so true. We're thinking about a million things at once. And I think the part that as women we have to get to is maybe you're not totally able to, deal with the financial thing. Like the bills are still there, but can you get to a plate where you can put that on hold for a minute? And you can take that to the Lord and be like, okay, Lord, like I need to connect with my husband. As I was talking with my girlfriends too, we were saying, we're good. Like my husband, he's all about it. He all day, every day. That'd be great. I'm like, I will initiate because I love the after. I love the the relationship that it gives us and just that unity that it provides. And what I found is when I'm stressed and worrying about all of those things that are still going to be there, like there's this, it's not like they've disappeared, but you're like, oh, okay. But there's this sweetness between us that's like, okay, the stress might still be there. Like those things might still be there, but it's given us more of an opportunity to connect and to learn also how to set those things to the side for a bit.
For sure. Like, yes, definitely casting all your cares on him because he cares for you. He cares for your marriage. And so just saying, God, help me to, get these thoughts out of my head. Like it's really having that constant conversation with God to help you get to the point where you can communicate holistically with your husband too, and get to that point where, okay, now I can be at a place where my body can relax and I can communicate what I'm really feeling and sensing and have these sensory things come back, because they're not, when we're in this continual fight or flight and overstimulated and our sympathetic nervous system is on overdrive, we literally, our nerves like shut off and we don't have any more sensation left to give. So it's like, no wonder we're like, I'm not feeling it, because we can't feel anything else. We're overfelt. And so I just remember being like, especially when I had boys, it was like, I cannot be touched one more time. I'm sorry. It's like it's literal, a holistic thing. Like your physical body is so stimulated that it can't be stimulated anymore. And what is sex? It's like all about stimulation. So you're like, okay, I can't. And so I think there's also that piece of realizing how different your bodies are and what you're dealing with, that you can communicate that to your spouse and for them to be on the understanding level. And if there is a break in understanding and you're like, well, he's just not understanding, that's where I think a real therapist or counselor can step in and say, this is what she's trying to say, and hear her because this is real. I think that would go a long way. But fortunately, we haven't had to go there, because my husband has gotten to the point where I was able to communicate it at a good level, and then he was able to really understand, and that's taken years, but it's happened, which is good.
Yeah. Well, what would you say and how would you encourage the mom that you were 5 years ago struggling with this, who does have that feeling touched out? Like, I get that. My kids are older now, but I so remember that. And I'll be honest, I used that as a crutch. Like, you know what? I'm good. I've been touched everywhere. And, my husband and I had conflict. And so it was an easy thing of like, oh no, and that's not where every mom is. And thankfully the Lord has been gracious and moved us out of that season. But what would you say and how would you encourage that mama that is exactly who you were talking about? She's like, I can't be touched one more time. But the reality is, we are wife to our husband first. How do we communicate through that? What do we do? What would you tell her?
Yeah, well, a few things. One is, what I try to communicate to my moms is, I know you want to be the best mom, but being the best mom means you have to fill yourself up, which means if you're married, your sex life is part of your holistic being. And that has to take a little bit of a precedence over your kids' needs. It has to fit in there somewhere. And I know so many moms that just like die to themselves to take care of their kids, and all their kids' needs come before them. And we just can't do that. That's where you end up in burnout. Another thing that I've learned, which I knew this, but it was like, I needed verbiage for it, because I'm like, I want to talk. I don't want to have sex. And we haven't talked. And now you want to go in the bedroom. This doesn't make sense to me, how we can just go from like taking care of the kids all day and then just go in there? Like, what about the
Right.
what
Right.
about talking?
Can we connect? Like intimacy is so many other things. Like sex
Yes.
is just one of those things.
Yes, and I didn't know that. I just knew there was something. I was like, I want all these other things. Can we do those too?
Right.
And
Can we
so,
have some other things too? Like
yeah,
snuggling on the couch. Like, can we just sit? Can we watch a movie? Can we go for a walk?
yeah. And my biggest thing as a Christian mom was having that spiritual intimacy. It was like, goodness, if I see you at church and you're full on worshiping God, yes, let's go home and go have sex. Okay. Because that means, or if you have a conversation with me after church about what you just learned or about like what God spoke to you and you're moved, like, and yes, because that's the intimacy level that is, if we're going to put them in order,
Yes.
like I have some that go higher than my husband's. And yes, apparently there's like 12-ish different intimacies. And to learn that, I was like, oh, well, that makes sense why if we're going out on a date, I'm like, let's go do something fun. Let's talk and go have fun. And then we can come home and do what you want to do. And I'm not going to be at the level where I can do it because my cup is filled up because I got to have fun with you, which is called recreational intimacy. And so that's where I wanted to get to for these stressed out moms. That's probably the number one thing. And you hear this in so many different words. Like some people say, do what you used to do when you dated and go back to what you did before you had kids. It's basically, the short way of saying it is you need recreational intimacy in your marriage when you're stressed out. When you're at the season of little kids, you're stressed out, burnt out, do something fun together. And the good thing is you can do it when the kids are around. You guys can play a family board game or the kids can be playing in the yard while you guys are playing a card game on the porch or like even just talking about the week while they're playing swinging or whatever. Like you can do it when the kids are around or
And
you
it's
can
free.
do it.
It can be free.
Yes. It can be free. It's like a free date night at home. The whole thing is being intentional. And so many times we're like, I'm stressed out. I'm touched out. I can't, this part of my life, my sex life is going to go at the bottom. And we forget about it and we don't really realize what it's doing to our marriage. Well, if we can be intentional, and that doesn't mean be intentional with having sex. Okay, I have to be intentional and plan sex like 3 times on my calendar for the week. No, I mean, be intentional about your intimacy level, intimacy you see, then the sex life will come. The times where you do get to the bedroom and you feel less stimulated and you feel like, okay, I'm in the mood, it's going to come more easily because all your intimacy levels or more of them are filled up, right? So it's being intentional. And I'm all about intentionality and living intentional because I want moms to get out of that point of survival. And I'm naturally a high achiever. And I found myself in this burnout survival where I was like, I can't do all the things I want to do because I'm too stressed out and anxious about it all. And once we realize you're in control of your thoughts, you're in control, what you think is what comes out of your mouth and it's what you do. So you have control over it. You have control over lowering your stress level because it all starts in the mind. Your stress, your anxiety, it's all starting in the mind. So if you can lower that, then you can manage your very full life, all the kids, all the things that you feel like you have to do. You can manage it. You have to get to the stress level point and be intentional about lowering that. So that's what I would say to the mom who's like, I can't. Be intentional about your different intimacy levels and how you can get to them and find out which ones you really like I said, spiritual and intellectual for me and recreational, like probably my top 3. Like tell me something smart and talk to me about God and have fun.
Absolutely. Laughter is so cathartic. It's so healing. It lightens the mood. You just are having fun. And it's been so fun. My daughter is engaged. We're planning a wedding and watching them date over the last couple of years. And it takes you back to when you were dating. And I just remember being like so excited and everything he said was funny and it was cute and like, get back there.
Yeah.
If you can. I know it's hard and it's not always 100% possible, but it's so amazing.
Well, part of that though, you have to kind of separate it. So for me, being a perfectionist, recovered. I was my
Yes.
whole life. And that is what drove a lot of my anxiety. And being, from purity culture and getting married and being like, okay, this first year of life is supposed to be like, or of marriage, not of life, of marriage is supposed to be the best ever. But apparently they say it's really hard to, but we get to have sex and we've never had that. And so it's going to be so fun. And there's obviously you're not even thinking about kids. You're like, let's just, and I was so intentional, back to intentional. I was so intentional with our marriage, like every single day, because that's all you have. And that's all you want to do is think about the other person. I worked night shift, and all night I would either be researching, well, besides taking care of my patients, but you have
Of
some
course,
extra
in the
time.
breaks, it's fine. Yes.
You have some extra time during night shift, but I would look up recipes to make him that I, just experiment. I never knew how to cook before getting married. So, and we had a fast and furious like engagement. So I was like, I got to figure out how to feed this man. He lived on frozen pizza before that. So, and then I would look up I would look up ways to date him and like to think of really amazing dates for at home that were cheap, and I set my bars. Like I was a high achiever. So I was high achieving in my marriage because I wanted to be the perfect wife. He married me. He chose me. I had to be perfect. And I was trying so hard. And I look back to little newlywed Shan and I'm like, you're so cute, but now you've ruined it for yourself.
You shot yourself in the foot.
I totally did. He's like, remember, this year, like 14 years into marriage, remember when you used to do that like our first year and you used to like da 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 da. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I did that. Where did I find the energy, the excitement, the like, how did I, what, And so for him, he's thinking back to the actual act or like whatever I did to really spice it up. And I'm thinking back to, well, that was really fun. And I had the freedom and I was carefree, but yet at the same time, I was living under this anxiety pressure of I've got to be perfect. And then I would do all these before things to like really spice it up. And then we get in the bedroom and I would be like, I don't know how to do this. Like, how do I be perfect here too? Right. And I wasn't. And it left us with a lot of just like confusion. Like, what does married sex even look like? Like, we don't know. We were told like not to even pay attention to sex and all that. So we read some books and tried to like figure it out, right? But it was hard in that way because of my perfectionism. And that drove me to a place where I would then enter the bedroom so anxious because I didn't know the right thing, the best thing, the perfect way to make him happy and all these things. And there's not, by the way, there's none of that. And I had to get to the point where just to let go of all of that perfectionism and that he just loved me and that two become one. We're one flesh and it's just this freedom. I never knew freedom of like just being with your spouse and letting that just be relaxing. And like, there was never a relaxing part. It was like, I've got to perform. I've got to do this, right? Do it right. And so, and then all of that brought on the shame. So it's been like a journey of like working through the shame, the getting rid of the perfectionism and communicating that to him too. Say, I'm dealing with a lot of mental stuff here. And he was too, by the way. But like, I'm dealing with a lot of mental stuff here that I'm trying to work through it, but it's affecting this bedroom time. So communicating that with myself, like realizing that, reflecting, being aware that my anxiety was my perfectionism was affecting the bedroom, and then sharing that with him and saying, this is what I'm really thinking. And then he can say, I don't need you to be perfect. And I don't need, it starts a communication that is so important.
Yeah. I love that. I love it. You've said two things, intentional and communication. And I don't think you can go wrong if you are intentional in your communication. You are intentional about what you're doing. You're thoughtful. You're really thinking through those things. And I firmly believe that whether your husband is walking with the Lord or not, our husbands want what is best for us.
Mm-hmm.
I really do believe 90% of those husbands out there, they really want what's best for their wife and vice versa. We just, I have this skill to overcomplicate things unnecessarily, and it's not good. It's not a good thing. And when you like break it down and go, oh, wait a second, actually, let's talk about this. He may look like he has it all together. He's just as confused. He doesn't know any of these things either. And it's okay. I love that you guys read books. I love that you sought wiser people out there, whether that was in book form or in your church or whatever. And that's the thing that I come up against so often, which is why I started this podcast, because people don't talk about it, especially Christians. Like, you're just supposed to know. And I always say, when my oldest daughter was born, that my husband knew I wanted to breastfeed right away. So he hands her to me and he's like, here, go. And I was like, hey, I get the general idea of it, but I've never done this before. I don't know how to do this. And nobody would shame you for being like, I need to ask questions. But somehow when it comes to sex and marriage and intimacy of any sort, we're just like, well, we said I do, so we should get it. Like, we got it all figured out. And we don't.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Yeah, you don't have, we're not supposed to know all of it. And I think there's that just misconception that every human being, when they get to this certain point, they know how to do all the intimacy things and they know how to be with another person, and you don't. And if that, even the just general education of the human body, if you weren't taught, sometimes I'm like, well, good thing I was even a nurse to like know some of it. Because if I wasn't a nurse, I wouldn't even know body parts. Like, I was just a clueless, like naive, and like really preferred it that way. Like, please don't tell me. I don't want to know. And then I get to the point where I'm like infatuated with someone and I'm like, oh, and now I'm married. And that means you're supposed to have sex. Well, I don't even know body parts. So how am I supposed to do this? But a good thing I knew body parts general. Yes. So it just gets to the point where you have this misconception that everyone knows everything. And you jump into this and you're supposed to just know. And you're like, hold on, just let me bring my pride down. And I don't know, by the way. And is that okay that I don't know? And he's going to say, yes, it's okay. And let's just figure it out together. And then we forget that though. We're like, forget that. We're like, I remember us having that conversation, I think on our honeymoon when we were reading one of these books. And I was like, well, I never knew that. And it was like this very good level of intimacy as we're discovering on our honeymoon. But then we get back and it's like, oh yeah, I learned all that on the honeymoon. I'm supposed to know it now, like really know it. And I mean, I'm telling you, that first month after we came back, so much shame came into me because it was like, am I supposed to do it that many times every day in like normal life? And I wanted to tell him like, I don't think that's going to happen again. So, and then I felt bad. I was like, well, now I'm a bad wife right out of the get-go. And he thought he was marrying something else, So, I mean, there's just so many misconceptions that we need to clear up and just humble yourself and receive the humility of someone else too, and welcome that. Like with you being humble, that helps them practice humility. And then you can come together and say, if we want this to be healthy, we both have to come to a point of understanding and not come to get rid of our pride. And then that's going to open the communication doors where we can really love each other wholly.
Yeah, I love that, Shan. We could talk for hours and hours on this because we are both very passionate about it. And
Yes.
It's not, and I think the misconception is like, we are passionate about sex. Well, yes, sort of. I'm passionate about what it does in the relationship and what it does for your marriage and what it does to just be a light in this dark world for the Lord.
Yeah. I want to say one more thing. When I was in that season of burnout, this is to the moms who are still there. I was in that season of burnout. I was in a moms group and we were talking about this, and I was searching out information. I was like, someone tell me how to do this and that I'm okay and how to fight this anxiety that I'm feeling and all the things. And it seemed like no one would talk about it with me. I had one other mom. This is like a mom's group of like 40, 50. There was one other mom who would talk about it, but she was also very anxious. She was just like she was just like me. She's like, I know how important it is. So let's talk about it together. It seems like we're the only two that want to talk about it. But you know what? this is another tool that I wanted to mention. She did essential oils. She was part of an essential oil company. And she's like, I actually have this oil that's supposed to increase your libido and kind of get you in the mood. And I was like, I'll try it. It's natural. Sure. So I'm telling you, things like that really help. And when you can get your mind, so, it's date night, like start thinking about it, be intentional about your thoughts in the morning or in the beginning of the day. Put the oil on and start to like, there's something about senses. So like breathe, even like smelling this certain oils or a certain scent. So this oil, that's what it does. So like you breathe it in and it starts to get your mind naturally thinking about those things. And that is how you get in the mood, is by really helping your thoughts get there and taking care of the kids, doing all the things that you have to do, but know like, okay, we have date night tonight and I want to be less stressed. So I'm going to be intentional about my thoughts all day. I'm going to be intentional thinking about all the ways I love my husband, all the good things about him. I'm going to be praying about my marriage and how God's blessing it. And I'm going to do little things that I can do, like put oils on me to really help, because they do. Like that's scientific. So putting
Give
science
me some
and
oils. I think they're great. I've become like this holistic, crunchy mom, wife. My husband's like, oh my gosh, what are you making now? I'm like, trust me, it's going to be great.
it
It's going to be good.
works. It
It
works. It
does.
so works.
It does. I love that. Absolutely. And I think there's just so many things that we can do for ourselves, for our senses, taking advantage of those things. Maybe even as you were talking, I was like, as simple as like making your bed, like putting, hanging up a few of those clothes, take 5 minutes, set the timer. The other day I came home and I was like, I've got to put the timer on for 15 minutes, unload the dishwasher, and do a couple of things. And then I'm going to sit down. It was like my reward. Like I'm going to do those things. And in 15 minutes, I had those things done. And it was very nice and easy. And anyways, like, yeah, what do you have to do to get your mind around it? Because it's going to be great. It's going to be so much better. And you mentioned the verse, cast all your anxieties on the Lord. And all of them, every single one of them, whatever you're
Yeah,
anxious and worrying about, send that all to the Lord. Like give that all to him. He knows about it already. Like just tell him about it. But anyways,
exactly.
like I said, we could go on and on and on. And I want moms to be able to listen to this in like one sitting.
Exactly.
But I love you, Shan. Where can everybody find you, and what you have something fun going on right now in your podcast and in your world, your business?
Yeah, yeah. So you can definitely find me on Holistic Moms. I love to hang out on my podcast, and there's a lot of fun things going on over there. Recently, I have launched my 6-month group coaching program called the Bold Blueprint. And this is the blueprint that God gave me when I was in my season of burnout. And I went to him, help. And he's like, no, Martha, Shan, these are the things that you need. And actually only one indeed, which is being with me. And so it's this whole 6-month program where, I know you're stressed out. So we take it step by step, very intentionally, and we really focus on your spiritual life first, and then time with your body, which includes, well, not include sex, but your time with your holistic body and all your holistic healthy habits. Then we go into time with your spouse and with your children, and then time with others and your purpose and your mission and your dreams. And so we break it up, and I'm super pumped about it because I know this is what helped me. This is what brought me to a place of peace and really like managing my stress in such a healthy way that I just want moms to get out of that survival mode and have these lives that are thriving in all areas. And so that is launched. It's in the world. I believe, well, actually, I don't know when this is exactly coming out, but always take note because I'm always having special sales and things coming up. So come over to the podcast. You'll hear about all of those. And it's an evergreen thing. You can come in anytime, but we're always doing something fun.
That's awesome. That's amazing. Okay, well, go find Shan over on Instagram at the Shan Wright, right? At the Shan Wright. I'll put all your links in the show notes, and you will absolutely love her, love the podcast, and you'll be just so blessed. So thank you so much for coming on today, Shan. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Michelle. It was so fun. Thanks for having me.